are black. Some have freckles. It doesn't matter. You're still beautiful just the way you are.
Well, you are very beautiful. I think I said this last week. You're beautiful on the inside and the outside. Ayana, do you want to introduce our first speaker, Javar?
Mhm. First up, we have Javar. Javar has worked with mixed staffing in the past and has grown into a supervisor in his new role. A supervisor, sorry, leads a supervise leads and supervises their team to be the best they can be. Thank you for being here today, Javar.
All right, we're gonna get you unmuted there, Javar, if you want to unmute your microphone.
Javar, you got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, it's the microphone.
There we go. Oh, shoot. I think I just muted you. Do it again. Sorry.
Hello, guys. I'm Javar. I'm a supervisor currently at the Gluten Free Bar, second shift. I was released from prison in 2017. Went through mixed staffing and got the job where I'm at now. I've been dealing with mixed staffing for the last 3 years with hiring people with felons on second shift. But I'm here to talk today about housing for felons. It is very hard for us when we get out of prison to find housing. With that being said, I'm going to leave the conversation open.
Javar, do you want to tell a little bit about your story of what it was like for you when you came out of the system? And I guess, like, maybe just some experiences on how housing has impacted you?
Housing, when I first got out of prison, everybody shut their door. I mean, there's no really, unless you find a private landlord, and then you have to tell the private landlord your story. Otherwise, he doesn't rent to you, and then you have to find a private landlord that's actually willing to rent to you. And 90% of the people that's out there are not willing to rent to felons. So it's like either you stay downtown at the mission or you end up going back to prison because you can't find any place to live, or you end up trying to live with a family member. I mean, it's really, really hard.
Is that what you had to do so you were released in 2017?
Yes,
And then you had got out of the prison system and you went to a federal halfway house, correct?
correct.
And then they're supposed to help you get housing and get returned to society, correct?
Correct. And there's even being in federal halfway house and all the support that you got from the probation officers, the staff that works there, and things like that, people still do not want to rent to felons.
So what is it that people like, why do you think that is? What is the reasoning and what are things that we can do to try to help? Because so the top three things that you need to not end up back in the prison system would be safe housing, employment, and then food and food, I think.
Right.
So if the first thing is housing, and you're not able to get that, can you talk to us a little bit about what your suggestions would be for that?
My suggestions would be for that. Really, there's no suggestions for that because it's hard. I mean, like I said, you have to go stay with a family member. I mean, yeah, it's difficult to talk about. I mean, because I went through a difficult time trying to find housing.
Why do you think that you didn't end up back in the system and maybe other people do?
Um, I had a supportive family.
Uh-huh.
I had a supportive family. I lived with my sister when I first got out for a year. I mean, it took me what 19 months to find a house, and I had to explain to the lady what I went to prison for. Had to introduce her to my probation officer. Had to explain to her what I went to prison for. Had to introduce her to my I let her know that what I went to prison for, I'm not doing anymore. And I'm still walking on pins and needles with that.
Do you feel that you constantly are having to kind of the um, pay for a mistake you made now it's
Definitely.
14 years ago?
Definitely.
What do you think employers or leaders can do in our community to try to help advocate for individuals like yourself rather than continue to put up barriers?
Listen, listen. We, I mean, the company I work for, is a second chance company. I got out of prison. These guys knew I was a felon. They gave me a chance. I talked with these guys. I explained my story. They paid for me to go to school. When I
Hmm.
became a supervisor, they took a chance.
I would definitely say that the way that the gluten-free bar values people and allows for opportunities is something that many employers in the area should look to um, as a prime example of how people deserve to be treated. Would you agree?
Definitely, definitely.
Javar, do you think that in terms of you made a mistake at a young age, do you feel you're going to continue to have to pay for that crime? And
No,
good,
no, I don't.
good. So eventually we're going to get through this, right?
We definitely are.
Do you feel, in terms of your conviction and you being Black, that anything, had you been a white person, that you would have been treated any differently?
Definitely. Housing would have been a little bit better. I mean, I wouldn't have had to explain what I went to prison for. I wouldn't, I mean, yeah, I definitely could have got a house easier.
Hmm.
But with me being black and fresh out of prison and then my crime, they automatically think I'm going right back to doing what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Javar, we're proud to know you and we're proud of how much you've accomplished. I know that they're really proud to have you over at the Gluten Free Bar as well. So thank you so much for being here today. I know
Thanks
it's
for having me.
not an easy thing to continue to bring up. So thank you. Um, it looks like there's one question that came through, Javar, about do you, well, I guess you sort of did in terms of if the criminal justice system had failed you.
Elaborate a little bit more. What do you mean
Well,
if
it just says if you feel like the criminal justice, like if they didn't set you up to succeed once you were released.
oh, they definitely don't set you up to succeed when you're released. I mean, used to be a lot of programs in prisons before school and things like that. Now there's no schooling and things. I mean, it's some job trades that's in there, but the job trades that's in there, and then you come out here and you try to get them type of jobs, people slam the door in your face. 90% of the people who get out of prison end up working in fast food restaurants, aren't able to pay for anything for real.
Mm. Javar, Celeste has asked, I've heard that other employers say that they may consider somebody who has one felony, but not multiple felonies, because there's a perception that a person hasn't learned their lesson if they haven't changed their ways. Would you agree or disagree with this?
I disagree.
And why?
The reason why is a lot of a lot of stuff that we were raised around, the neighborhoods and things like that. People always say, "Oh no, your neighborhood is what you make it," and it's not all that bad. But I mean, if I get out of prison with my first felony and I can't get a job, and I end up doing something I don't have any business doing and catching another felony, I mean, it's just a cycle.
Mm. Mm. So a
And
lot
it's
of it's psychological, like
right. And
psychological methods. Yeah,
it's
interesting.
easy from that first felony, that second felony. I mean, it could be just jaywalking and it can turn into something totally different because of the first felony.
Mm.
And then it's like as soon as they run your name, you're automatically guilty of the felony. And it's like, wow.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for talking again and for sharing your vulnerability. We really appreciate that, Javar, and your
Thanks,
insight.
man.
You know, if we can do anything, I know housing and homelessness among people who have been in the prison system is absolutely insane. And then you look at the statistic of military veterans that also have prison and felonies that become homeless. It is very sad data.
Closing remarks would be let's as a people, let's take a look at reforming people when they get out of prison. I mean, people go to prison, they get out, and it's just like they still in prison.
Mm.
There's no direction when you get out of prison. And a lot of that is mental health. I mean, you got people that say, well, you went to prison, you did your time, you can get out and get a job, but mental health plays a big part in that. And that's something that's not being looked at when people get out of prison, the resources to actually help people.
Very good. Thank you. And then we're gonna close with Andre, and then we're gonna have we have an intern through the city of Grand Rapids started through all this going on with George Floyd. They had a youth internship